No. Hi. So happy to be here. We had little planes, trains, and automobiles. There was snow, and we had a lot of fun in the snow last night. And we're happy to be here. I'm happy also to be here tomorrow night to do this panel on the yogic science and the spirituality of business. Tonight I want to talk a little bit about leadership and some of the kind of concepts of leadership in this new time, and then also practice a little bit. So we're in chairs, so I'll show you how we can practice just wherever we are. In fact, some of the stuff we're going to do, we're doing in the New Orleans airport, and a bunch of people had stopped us and were like, what are you guys doing? We're like, oh, we're just doing this thing that makes you feel really good, and it gives you energy before you get on the plane. So they were Googling it, and they all got the, so one of the things that I want to do with you can do really anywhere. You can do all of this stuff anywhere, but it's nice to have some things that if you're sitting in your office or sitting, waiting for your kid, picking up your kid or whatever, you could do you don't want to do it while you're driving, but you can do it parked or in any kind of seated position. You also don't want to meditate while you're standing either, although we will do a little yoga standing tonight, so you have an experience of some of the pragmatics of things that you can do. I mean, part of Yogi Bhajan said, my teacher, he said, and this is not Mr. T, this is actually from Yogi Bhajan, he said, people who don't have tools are fools. And so, one thing that I think is so important about being a leader in this time, because the responsibility of those of us who have leadership roles, or the energetics of having leadership roles, or if you want to be a leader, I want to talk a little bit about that as well, where you want more kind of focus as being a leader, you want people to pay attention to you or respect you or follow you as a leader. That's all, there's a science to that. There's an art and a science to that. And in the technological age, and also the age that is basically creating a lot of transparency, the technology is creating transparency. So I feel like it's a really interesting age to be in the public eye. We're just talking politics. It's a very interesting time to be in the public eye or to be a leader because the technology is demanding transparency in a way. I would also say that some of the younger generations who have come on the planet who have grown up with technology have a certain type of sensory or kind of nervous system and ability to see through, we'll just call it without making it fancy, they can see through shit. They can see through bullshit anytime, any place, and in a way that is more sophisticated than ever before. So I was talking to a bunch of kind of innovators in the wellness industry and in some other aspects of the wellness industry, and I was just saying that the audience that is now driving the economy is much more sophisticated than they ever have been. Therefore, you have to start to pay attention to how you're really doing things, because anything that's happening kind of 3 layers behind the Wizard of Oz curtain, the audience now can feel and sense, whereas even 50 years ago, even 30 years ago, that wasn't really the case. So we have a much more sophisticated, and some of you are part of those generations, some of us aren't. But although I was told I'm an elder millennial, so I'm riding that one to the bank. But so, the audience itself is requiring so much more in terms of, and demanding so much more. And so I think leadership, this is a beautiful part of the technological age, leadership is becoming something that the integrity, the integral nature of being a leader is really, the bar is getting higher and higher. And we're going to see this more and more and more as we go through the next 10, 20, 30 years. And it's the only way that we're going to get through some of the issues that we have, the catastrophic issues that we have in all sectors of society that we're facing now, is integral leadership. So I want to talk a little bit about the art and the science. I'm very interested in the yogic science, or is what I would call it, of leadership, because these kind of tools or these practices that we have and are readily available to us, which I want you to have the experience of as well, because I can talk about it, but you need to have the experience of it as well. This is, in my belief, it's actually not a luxury anymore. These are the things that are required of us if we're going to have a clear mind and a clear body and the energy to solve some of the catastrophic problems that we're facing. So I say this a lot with meditation. One of the quotes is meditation is a civic duty. It's not a luxury, it's a civic duty. Some sort of optimizing your body-mind system so that you can show up in a richer or more present way. This is something that is going to be more and more required of us as we go into the next 10, 20, 30 years and beyond. But I'm just talking about this kind of transitional period because so much is changing so rapidly. So that's what we'll chat a little bit about that. And then we'll have a couple experiences. You can ask some questions. It'll kind of be like that. All right, that's our plan. Another teaching of Yogi Bhajan. You're not a human if you don't have a plan. So, and not only a plan, but he actually was into 4, A, B, C, and D. He said all leaders have plan A, B, C, and D. So you need basically 4. If plan A goes off, you have plan B. So you need 4 kind of backup plans. The first plan and then 3 backup plans in order to really be able to kind of pull off what you have to pull off during the day. So of course that preparation is key, and in yogic science, the preparation to be able to show up or pull off whatever you have to pull off, or kind of create a certain people remember you, or people want to listen to you, or people want to follow you, or your employees actually respect you, or whatever the thing, whatever your version of this is, you have to have some sort of preparation plan. That preparation plan in yogic science, part of it is some sort of meditation or some sort of practice where you're optimizing yourself so you're prepared. And there are, we can kind of go into some of the architecture of this, but it's not cutting edge that you're not just your physical body. So I am not the first person or the last who has mentioned this in all the different ways that it's both getting proven in kind of a more Western science, but also 7,000 years of the rishis and the yogis and the kind of practitioners who experimented with a lot of the stuff that we're going to do tonight to see and feel and experience how these certain ways of breathing or moving the body or contemplating certain sounds or these kinds of things, how this starts to optimize the human body-mind experience. And so these, 7,000, I always say, show me one pharmaceutical research that has been for 7,000 years. We have some pretty hardcore research that these practitioners have done over these thousands and thousands of years. And I was just saying over the weekend, it's actually something I had not come across in my teacher's teachings before, but he was saying that the yogis that did a lot of this kind of experimentation on themselves with these practices, these meditations, these sound sciences, whatever, the mudra, all these types of kind of why we would put our fingers or our arms or do our breath in a certain way, they actually were very proprietary, and that's why these practices didn't come out from kind of secret for a long time, and they were also never practiced. They were never taught to women until Yogi Bhajan came to the West, so, or very rarely. And part of that, he was saying, was that these kind of yogic, like good old boys clubs, they were practicing this stuff and finding that it was making them very, very powerful. And this is the same as all, religion as it has been practiced in this time that we came from, politics. Anybody who has the power, which is part of what's happening right now and why we feel leadership is such an important conversation to have, anybody who has power usually doesn't want to give it up readily, and they're not really, they have a little issue with that. And the yogis were, you could say that some of these kind of secret yogic practices, it was the same. They were practicing this stuff, they were realizing how powerful it made them, and that's why it was not particularly being taught in a more public environment, which I thought that was kind of interesting. And we came from an age that the people who had the knowledge had the power. So that was kind of pre-internet, pre-computerization of the planet, which you could say, I mean, the internet's been around for longer than we've publicly been able to use it, but let's just say, 40 years ago, we'll give it a little bit bigger than 25, but somewhere between 50 and 40, 40, 50, 30 years ago in that realm. The people who had the knowledge had the power. So therefore, the people who knew how to read the Latin, the people who knew, where the secret meditation was, the people who, in all these kind of ways, the people who had the knowledge had the power. Now that no longer is true. So what we've seen in this kind of internet, post-internet time, this technological time, and in the yogic kind of term, the New Age term, we call it the Age of Aquarius, but we don't have to go there. We'll just call it this kind of technological age. What we're seeing now is that everybody has the knowledge. So, why do you show up today? You could either watch me on YouTube, or better yet, watch Yogi Bhajan on YouTube, or, we can watch every spiritual teacher who has been around. It could be videoed on YouTube now, and you can you can DIY everything you can find out you can learn anything you want, all knowledge available to you at the push of a button. And Yogi Bhajan talked about this in the 70s, and everybody was like, what a freak. He was like, all knowledge is going to be available to you at the push of a button, and no longer the people who have the knowledge going to have the power. And it was kind of incomprehensible at that, even then. But now we know that you can know anything, you can learn anything, everything you possibly could ever want, learn, or know is at the push of a button. So now who has the power? Who is the most powerful people on the planet? Well, the most powerful people on the planet now, and this is going to become increasingly more true, are the people who have the energy and the vitality to organize, sort, and handle the pressure of the information. And so, everything that you're going to learn today is basically a way, there's many ways, but a way to allow the mind and the body, the brain, we call it the neuron velocity. I want to do a meditation with you tonight called Increasing Your Intelligence, which I thought, on brand for Harvard. So it's only 11 minutes. It will give you a competitive edge. It's pretty amazing. But so now, how do we create more neuron velocity? And the people who have the neuron velocity and have the kind of energy and the vitality to handle the pressure of the information age will be the people who rise to the top. Now, let's add to that the people in that sphere who also have integrity and are, you can tell vibrationally that they're doing something that you would want to follow or that you would want to listen to. And that is something I was thinking about today, is what really creates a leader. Because of course there's charisma, and of course there's, smarts, there's intelligence, of course there's certain kind of alchemies to leadership. But ultimately, it is a vibrational frequency of you in alignment with something that I would say is greater than you. So in millennial speak, let's say mission, your mission, or your something about the kind of mission of your company or the mission of what you're doing. It has an integral alignment. There's a vibration to that. And I was saying this to a bunch of these kind of like CEO types last week in London, that you can't, that vibration is why the people come back and buy what you're selling. That vibration is why people follow you on social media. That vibration is why something goes viral. I won't mention that there's also artificial intelligence involved in that, but that's another talk for another day. But we'll just stay on this level of it, which is the reason that happens is because there's a vibrational, there's something magnetic. Because they've done all these studies on why does a certain video, besides like a cat and like a baby, why does a video go viral? I mean, a cat and a baby in the video will, usually it'll definitely up your chances, but they can't figure out why anything that goes viral. There's no kind of rhyme or reason to it, whether it's something on social media or something on YouTube or a message of some sort. And I would just say from the yogic perspective, the science of how this happens energetically is that it has a certain frequency to it, and therefore that frequency is magnetic, and we don't know why, and we don't know, and a lot of those videos that go viral, you're like, this isn't even that funny, and I don't know why I'm watching it, and I don't know why, but there's something hypnotic and magnetic about it, and that's a vibration. So we add kind of the vibrational aspect, the integral vibrational aspect, which is something that you can't create, you can't hire. I was talking to somebody giving them some, unsolicited business advice, and they were telling me they hired this, $15,000 a month branding company or whatever, and of course, I think that's hilarious, because a bunch of people around, and I was joking about this one brand, that I can just tell that they did that because it has a name of it. The name itself, the sound of the name of the brand, I can hear the meeting of like a bunch of creative types in a cool office, where everybody, there's a lot of couches and nap pods, and people are, I saw the whole meeting happen, which they were like, okay, so we wanted to be, and they had all the names written down of the possibility of what they would brand it as, and I just saw the whole kind of thing go down because it had the vibration of something that wasn't authentic to whoever the founder of the business is, and you can just tell. And that's something that I don't think is being talked about enough. And part of the reason it's not being talked about is that the people who have those branding agencies and creative agencies, they don't want you to not pay them $15,000 a month to help you figure out a really cool name and brand and social media campaign for whatever you're kind of creating. So the thing wants to sustain itself. But if you're in that industry, I talk about this a lot in the Kriya Business Academy, if you're in that industry, you're helping people to create brands, you need to start talking about this part of leadership, which is there is something you cannot, there is not a commodity, you can't commodify it. And you can't buy the likes of it, and you can't buy the attention of it. It has, there's a frequency to it. And when you hit that frequency, we had gone to, I had taken my teacher to what was called Old Cella, not to be confused with Coachella. We were at Old Cella because he wanted to go see the Rolling Stones, and then Bob Dylan was there too. And we were walking to our seats, and he was like, "Can you smell the drugs?" I was like, "Yeah, I can smell the drugs." So we were really old when we were headed to our seats, and the Rolling Stones came on, and it wasn't a great, I don't like those kinds of venues. I like something a little bit more intimate, but basically Keith Richards hit a chord, and the whole, we both felt it kind of hit our bodies, and the whole frequency of the place changed, which is hard to do in an outdoor, like a big outdoor arena like that. You really have, you have to have skills. They hit it, and Yogic even turned to me and he said, that is a very specific earth frequency, that it's the reason the Rolling Stones became the Rolling Stones and the Beatles became the Beatles, and all throughout history, the people, there's a frequency that, and I felt it in my body where it went literally through the earth up into every person who was there, and that is the hit maker, that is the star maker. That's one of the vibrations. There's other ones, but that's a very specific frequency. And I could, if we were really, if we weren't live streaming, we're just having a little intimate chat, I would tell you some other people that I think have that frequency, but it's a total earth kind of frequency. And there are many people who are in the public eye that hold that earth frequency. One of the issues with women in leadership, I will just tell you this, is that coming from the third and fourth wave of feminism, basically that earth frequency was being ignored for a more toxic mimic of power in what it would look like to be a politician, what it would look like to be a CEO, what it would look like. So there was kind of a toxic mimic of what leadership and power look like, instead of that earth frequency is like this Ma frequency, which is what basically Keith Richardson, that other guy, what's that guy's name? The one that sings a lot, Mick Jagger. And so one of the things that they kind of talk about that changed their lives and them as musicians is they heard these women singing, R&B, Motown. And when they heard the earth frequency of that, it changed them. They couldn't get enough of it. And so basically they took that frequency from them and became their own songs. They learned how to create that frequency, which is doable. I mean, you need to have some things and you can't just fake it. And their love, their passion for that music gave them, kind of the entryway to be able to hook into that frequency. But there's a similar, that frequency is what's going to create a woman president here in America. That frequency is a frequency that will change this planet. It's a Ma frequency. It's a feminine frequency in a certain way. And I'm not talking gender. I'm talking just what the actual quality of it is. And so that's now Bob Dylan's frequency, just staying with this particular metaphor, he has a totally different frequency, but he hit this kind of, it's a totally different frequency, but it's a very magnetic frequency. And if you've ever seen Bob Dylan, he never talks to the audience. He's basically working against himself. He never talks to the audience. He never, he's not, all he cares about is the frequency. He's just every night listening to, he's very curious about the frequency that he's creating on the planet and how to make it more magnetic. And so that's part of what starts to kind of sophisticate you or make you more magnetic as a leader. And so to bring it back to the yogic science, we work in the science of sound. And we're just, actually, one of the initial research studies that was done on some of the sound that we use in Kundalini Yoga, some of the mantric codes, was done here at Harvard. And I was thinking we could do the meditation today if you want to. But basically, this sound kind of frequency is something that we're just scratching the surface of in terms of understanding what this does and how it changes consciousness and how it changes, how it heals us and how it expands us and how frequencies can be felt through time and space and how we could even say when we start to more publicly time travel, that will all be sound frequency. That's all the TARDIS, Doctor Who's TARDIS. Don't pretend that nobody watches Doctor Who. Thank you. That basically fueled by sound. Even the sound, you just made the sound. It's fueled by sound. So as we start to time travel and all that technology becomes more of something which will happen in some of our lifetimes. I mean, it's already happening, but it will become more publicly understood and be able to be used. It's all sound. So then you think, okay, well, time travel, how does that have anything to do with leadership? Well, how are you going to change the face of human history if you don't understand how to move through time and space, future, past? And so these are like the Gettysburg Address and Martin Luther King's last talk before he was assassinated and all that. These are sound frequencies that literally are the vibration was so powerful that they still are hanging in what we would call the collective consciousness. This sound, I listened a lot to that last talk that he gave because he knew he was going to be assassinated and you can actually hear it in the sound of a talk that he gave. It's pretty profound. It's an amazing talk too. But so the sound itself starts to reverberate through history, basically. So you want to be somebody, and listen to like Steve Jobs, listen to his sound current. He had a very interesting sound current. And so there was a sound that he was basically penetrating into, and that sound was a sound of innovation that at the time nobody understood. And it took a while for people to catch up to it. But now nobody, we don't even know life without. His sound changed all of our lives. And so that, and also gave us our best friend, our greatest lover, our most beautiful pet, and that sound. That's reverberating through all of our lives, unless you have a Samsung, and that's just weird. So these are some of the things that I think about and put into practice and experiment with when it comes to leadership. And when you're thinking about your own creating of your companies or expanding of your companies or your brands or how you want to kind of move and give your gifts, if you start to experiment with some of this stuff, which I'll give you some things that you can take with you tonight and practice them. Unfortunately, it does take a little bit of something. So whether that's, one very simple thing you can do, like requires no meditation at all, is that you start to listen to the sound of your own voice. And you start to really pay attention to the sound and the cadence of your voice and how to optimize it. Because if you have a magnetic cadence and a magnetic sound, people will start to listen to you. So that's just one thing, and that requires no meditation at all. But if you really want to enhance that sound, you could use some of the sound sciences, that some of the sound technologies that we've been using for 7,000 plus years in the yogic traditions to start to optimize some of the vibrational frequencies of the sound of your own voice. The sound of your own voice is the most powerful sound there is to you, not to anybody else, but to you, and it could become a very powerful sound to others, and that would be why people would want to listen to you, or why they would want to, hire you to do something, or why. But it's all a vibrational frequency, and you can, if you're up against something, or you're not getting the clients you want, the business you want, or the attention you want. Attention is the new commodity. As free energy becomes more and more something that we understand and we utilize, which is going to happen. It will happen in our lifetimes. Then the currency of fossil fuels are going to not be the thing that we're measuring against our fiat currency. Do we get that? Which means everything's going to change. But that's why it's already changed, because there are, right now, people in these big bucks furiously trying to figure out how to get people's attention so that they can sell to them, brainwash them, keep them thinking that the world or their lives or the economy or the politic looks a certain way. Your attention it's the greatest commodity, and it's going to become more and more like that. So in order to really create a vibrational kind of impact, these tools that you're going to experience tonight, if you practice a little bit and start to create a rhythm or pattern in your system, you'll notice, and you'll notice by people noticing, because that's a good pragmatic way, where it's okay. When I said that, somebody listened. It's good to practice with your kids, because you hear. I was at one of the west side of LA grocery stores, and I heard one of the moms, the kids running across through traffic, and I was like, no, star child. Whatever their New Age name was. Not that I have any right to make fun of New Age names, but no, star child, snowflake, don't run across and the kid's just running, because the kid's not going to listen to you when you, that's not an impactful sound current. So I watched the whole thing go down. You can always, if you have children, you practice with them, if they actually stop and listen to you at any age, then your sound current has changed a little bit. Or you're, anybody intimate to you. That's always a good test. And then, obviously, when things start to, heat up in whatever you're doing in the world, people are more interested in what you're doing. They want to hire you. They want to be around you. They want to give you money. They want to, whatever the thing is. They want to come to your class or come to your, event or whatever. Then that's another way that you can pragmatically start to see that the magnetism of your sound or your leadership, your sound leadership is actually starting to raise. So there's pragmatics to it, even though some of it is some, kind of esoteric, but not even really. We're keeping it pretty, pragmatic here. Okay, so should we try some of this? Yeah? Okay, so you'll put both of your feet on the ground. And then we'll make we're going to use sound to kind of open the channels of your system. And if you don't know this sound, then you can vibrate with us a little bit, even if you don't know the actual words. And then we'll try some other stuff. Okay, so first, bring the palms together. And thumbs into the heart. Sit up tall, take a deep inhale. Exhale. We use the sound Om, OMG, so it kind of vibrates in the upper palate. Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. And we'll do it 3 times. So take a deep inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Om. Marvin Gaye singing the Star Spangled Banner at some Lakers game in the late 70s. And it's like he's singing, you know, what is it? I want to sex you up or whatever. But he's singing the Star Spangled Banner, and like you can see the whole like man, woman, and child. They're just like it got so sexy in there. And you know, he wasn't singing that song, but his sound curve was so kind of penetrative and sensual that everybody was, and it's just funny to see. But that's kind of that. Those are the. I have a billion other examples, but that's a great. You can see it on YouTube. It's Marvin Gaye singing Star Spangled Banner at a Lakers game. But so you know, you can be talking about one thing, and the vibration is of a certain kind of caliber, and therefore, so you know, I tell the women, it's like if you want to ask your partner to take out the trash, like you got to learn these skills, because with the nagging kind of staccato, high-pitched sound current doesn't work. But if you get a little slower, a little more, then you know that sound, people will do anything for that. Okay, so we'll do a little right nostril breath of fire, which you might, you know, have some snot rockets, but you know, it's just us here, no problem. It's innovation. Okay, so you're gonna put this left thumb over the left nostril, and then it's an equal inhale and exhale through the right nostril. This is for energy, because the sun's going down, we get a little drowsy here. Okay, so you're gonna do equal inhale and exhale through the right nostril like this. Sound guys might kill me for that, but you know, you got it. You want it rhythmic like that. And close your eyes and just focus on the rhythm. That'll help you kind of balance out the brain chemistry. And if you can, both feet are just on the ground. You can sit up as tall as you can, but you know, do your best. when we do it through the right posture. And that has to do with hemispheres of the brain and how the alternate posture affects the different hemispheres of the brain. So left is to calm, but like adaptogenically, it's not gonna, it could make you so kind of calm or kind of take a nap, but mostly it's more just about kind of calming you down. And then the right, and then you can do your alternate posture, which is a very classic yogic exercise. Inhaling right, exhaling, exhaling right. Same thing, same principle. You inhale left, like Hillary Clinton in her post 2012 election that she put out. She talks about how the left breath really got her through those hard times after the election. So it's good for anxiety and that kind of thing. Okay, so now you're going to put your hands on your kind of thighs. Both feet are down. This is called the basic spinal series. You can do it in a chair. This is what we were doing at the airport. There was a guy that was very, very successful who, Yogi Bhajan, this was all he ever gave him. He met him one time, gave him this little series. And then the guy 20 years later came to see Yogi Bhajan and said, everything that is good that has happened in my life because of this. So he was aware that this set of exercises gave him enough vitality to have a good life. Okay, so we're like this, and you're just gonna inhale forward, exhale back. The chin is parallel to the ground, but we're moving the spine. And they also did some research this was at UCLA in the early days. So just breathe, inhale forward, exhale back, close the eyes, focus between the eyebrows. And when you undulate your spine like this, within 3 minutes, which we'll definitely get 3 minutes, it starts to change the brain waves. Start to get into some more kind of theta brain waves.
grab a little lower off the leg, so you have a little bit more of a flex. Inhale forward, exhale back. So keep going. So you can hit a different part of the spine this time. Shin is parallel to the ground. Breath is deep. Inhale forward, exhale back. Breath coming into the back of the body, where the kidneys and adrenals are. We're stimulating circulation there, so this is really good for fatigue. Now inhale center. Again, press the energy through the heels. Mulabanda, it's like stopping the flow of urination. You're squeezing rectum, sex organs, navel, squeeze up. This centers you. This is very good when you have to show up or be more consolidated. And Mulabanda, you're squeezing. And exhale. Now bring the fingers to the front of the shoulders, thumbs to the back. You might have to stagger a little bit here. You're going to inhale, or we can all do it like at the same time perfectly. Make it like a coordinated dance. Inhale left, exhale right. Inhale left, exhale right. Powerful breath. Inhale left, exhale right. We're just doing 26 of these, so we'll call that 5, 6, 7. Powerful breath. Somebody has kept the count. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Hold the breath. Now pull the elbows away. Get a little more breath in. Pull the elbows away. Squeeze the spine. This is affecting the central nervous system. To be a leader, you have to have a strong nervous system. And exhale. Good. Now you're going to put this left hand out and right hand in, and then you pull like you're pulling away from each other. And inhale up, exhale down, like a little kind of helicopter. Powerful breath. Inhale up, exhale down. Working on the sides and the backs of the lungs. Most people are breathing so shallow, and it affects the nervous system. It affects how much you can kind of handle in terms of the nerves. People say in kind of layman speak, I didn't have the nerve to do it. I didn't have the nerve to speak in front of those people. That's nervous elbows away. Hold the breath. And exhale. Okay, so we're going to flex the spine some more. There's a theme. We're going to flex the spine some more, but I liked what you were doing, where if you widen your knees a little bit, you'll get a different part of the spine. So if you're seated here, you can widen the knees, and then inhale forward, exhale back. If we were seated on the ground, we'd be doing a little bit different things, like sitting on our heels, but this will give you a little bit different spot in your spine to hit. Inhale forward, exhale back. Now the spine's getting a little warmer. You could move faster, breathe deeper. Solve problems or to expand beyond yourself. It's something that has to happen from a higher vibration than where the problem was actually created. So this is a really good sound code to play when you're trying to solve problems, when you're trying to get out of your head in a certain way. Sit up tall, take another sip in, hold the breath. And exhale. Now inhale, draw the shoulders up to they're called shoulders, right? Up to the ears, and then exhale, drop them down. So inhale up, exhale down, but really squeeze them up. So yeah, that's good. That looks good. Inhale up, exhale down. You can do this by itself to give the brain circulation, and it's really powerful. So to do this throughout the day when you're feeling a little foggy in the head, it's very powerful. Inhale, squeeze up, exhale, drop down. Just kind of go for it. This is going to give you a lot of energy. Try to breathe through the nose. Good. Now inhale and stretch the shoulders up, up. And exhale. Drop the chin to the chest. And move the ear to the shoulder. Drop the head back. Move ear to shoulder. Drop the head forward. Just a nice circle, please. Deeply through the nose. Hit all the corners of the neck, the jaw, just the lines of tension. Breathe deep through the nose. And then go the other direction. Float the head to the top of the spine. Hold the breath. Feel the circulation in the brain, the neck, and exhale. Yogi Bhajan said in this age there's something called computer sickness, and we actually, when the nervous system isn't strong enough to handle the technology, we're not into not having the technology. We like the technology. We like kids having technology. We're really into technology because you have to be. I saw some Prudential campaign on the way in on the highway that said how to keep a robot from taking your job, be retired first. I thought that was funny. That's the only way that you're going to keep from a robot taking your job. So we're into the technology, but the question is your nervous system, is it strong enough to handle what's in front of you? And it does take a toll. And so that's what we're working with. All this stuff with the central channel of the spine is strengthening your nervous system, the central nervous system, and other parts of the nervous system. Okay, so we're back here. We're going to work a little bit on the Mulabanda. So you're pulling the rectum, sex organs, navel, like you're stopping the flow of urination, but in a kind of pragmatic sense, if you're feeling scattered and all over the place, doing this will really help you to consolidate your energy. So it's a great tool to have. And you can, creepily do it with nobody knowing what you're doing. You can do it. If you keep it to a minimum, you can do it anytime, anywhere. Okay, so you're like this. You're going to take an inhale. You're pulling your elbows away. You're going to pull the Mulabanda, hold the breath, close the eyes, focus right at the frontal lobe of the brain, hold the breath. Hold the posture, exhale. Hold the breath out this time and squeeze Mulabanda, rectum, sex organs, navel, squeeze up. Inhale, bring the arms overhead, keep them in this lock. Hold the breath, stretch up, hold, squeeze up. Exhale, hold the breath out, squeeze. Inhale, arms come back to in front of the heart. Hold the breath, pull away and squeeze. Focus strongly at the frontal lobe. This is rejuvenating the fatigue of the brain. Exhale. Hold the breath out, squeeze. Inhale, arms up. Hold the breath, squeeze. Exhale. Hold the breath out, squeeze, really squeeze. Any irritability or kind of scatteredness, or just remedying it now. Inhale, bring the arms back in front of the heart, last round. Hold the breath, squeeze and pull. Stimulating the thymus gland, which helps the body to process any environmental toxins or viruses. Gives you this vitality. Exhale, hold the breath out, squeeze. And last time over the head, inhale, bring the arms up, stretch the heart, stretch the ribs, hold breath, squeeze. And then exhale, hold the breath out and squeeze. Last moment. And relax, inhale and exhale. Some good stuff. We're just sitting in a chair. Are some of you, anybody feeling a little heat from it? If you really, oh good, you're sweating. Oh, I'm so happy. I like sweaters. So the last thing we're gonna do is set Kriya, and I recommend this to everyone there's so many different reasons why you would do it. For women, it's very good for all sorts of, disordered eating and self-esteem issues, which also are for men too, but we have 92% of the women in the West have disordered eating, so we have an issue with that. Self-esteem, fertility. Yogi Bhajan said, do set Kriya until you get pregnant if you have fertility problems. For men, it's vitality, sexual vitality, so it's very helpful for vitality into your chronology. It's very good for digestion, any digestive issues, and on and on and on. It goes on and on and on. So there's no reason why everyone shouldn't just do a couple minutes of this every single day. Classically, you do it sitting on your heels, which is not very comfortable for people who don't have the flexibility to do that. But you can do it in a chair. You can also do it on your back with your knees into your chest and your arms up. So there's a lot of ways you can do it. You can do it in a bathtub, seated on the heels in a bathtub, which is actually kind of nice. Take a hot bath and do it in a bathtub. But without the pomp and circumstance, you can just do it right here. So you put both feet on the ground, you take this index finger up, and then left thumb comes over right for women identifying, right thumb over left for male identifying, and then bring the arms up, biceps beside the ears, close the eyes. When we say sat, you're gonna pull the navel. When we say nam, we're gonna release the navel. The only people who don't wanna do this are already pregnant women, or if any women here on your cycle, you can just chant with us, but you don't need to pull your navel too hardcore. Okay, take an inhale. Sit, nam, 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 sit,
Sit, nam. 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 Inhale. Now hold the breath and squeeze the spine from the bottom to all the way to the fingertips. Squeeze the Mulabanda. Squeeze everything up. Squeeze and consolidate. Hold the breath. See light coming all the way up through the spine, out the fingertips. And exhale. And just meditate, eyes closed at the third eye. Inhaling, exhaling through the nose, and just meditate. Let the body receive that energy you just opened up. So the leaders of the future, and actually many leaders of the past, understood that there are wheels of energy in the body called chakras. They may have called it something else, although many leaders are aware of this type of esoteric, quote unquote, and it's not esoteric anymore, but everybody has a hashtag chakra on their Instagram these days, but hashtag chakra is all the rage. But so these wheels of energy, if you know how to balance them, if you know how to communicate with them and from them in a sophisticated way, this is one of the technologies of having a magnetic sound current or a magnetic kind of presence, and that's the Marvin Gaye of it all. He knows how to use the second chakra along with some of the higher chakras to create an elevation and a revelation through the sensual energy. So it's not just second chakra, it's a multitude of the chakra and chakras, and you too can learn how to do that, but you have to have a somewhat balanced chakra system or an understanding of how to balance your chakras in order to do that. So that's what we just did, and that's what you're feeling right now. The difference between before and now is that there's a couple things that happened. One, you're oxygenated. One, the brain waves changed, and some other thing. The endocrine system had a stimulation which helps you to feel, more energy and more calm but energized. The eyesight kind of gets a little. Some of the fatigue that we experience from the screen time and stuff will lift. So some of that brain fatigue, the brain fog will lift, but also you're balancing the chakra system. And when you do that, you can then use the chakras in a much more
artful way. Yeah? You guys experience a little of that right now, yeah? Okay, good. So that's what it feels like to have the chakras balanced. You know, we can talk about it, but that's what it feels like. Should we do this, increase your intelligence? You're gonna get really high. Why would you get high when you increase your intelligence? Because that's our natural state. And this is my whole thing about some of the things that people are doing, like to take external things to increase their, whether it's a pharmaceutical or, you know, in California, you can't get like you can't get, you know, some kale off the hot bar at Whole Foods without CBD oil on it. You know, you're just like, no, I was just trying to get some kale, but it has CBD. I mean, that's it. Like, it's just gotten like to the point where, but one of the leadership qualities of this age is that you know how to generate the energy from the inside out. Now, whatever else you do is your business, but you at least understand and have some sort of skill set on how to generate energy from the inside out. And so when you increase your intelligence in the yogic way, when we increase the kind of neuron velocity, you get a heightened state of kind of what we would call a buzz, but that's actually your natural state. So you're just basically tapping into your natural frequency, but we're very depleted and depressed, and we don't know how to utilize the operating system because we're not taught. You know, we're not taught. So this is this is a 11-minute meditation, and you could just really, you could take this and go far with it. Yogi Bhajan says it increases your IQ, it energizes your brain, it helps concentration, it increases your awareness of your environments, it helps habitually depressed people, and it gets rid of hidden angers. All right, we'll try it? Okay, so hands are like this. The ring and pinky finger are into the palms, and then the thumbs are over, and then the index and middle finger are straight up like this. And then we're going to open and close the fingers like scissors. So you open and close like that. And so then close the eyes once you get the open and close, and we're doing a relaxed breath through the nose to begin with. Please concentrate as you breathe through your nose on the movement of the fingers. Hypnotically concentrate on the movement of the fingers. If you yawn, if you sneeze, if any changes in your body occur, just keep going, let it happen. If you feel very negative, don't worry, just keep going. It's only neutralizing some of the hidden anger. If you feel so relaxed that you want to stop or you get sleepy, just keep going, letting go of some of the inner fatigue. This meditation in ancient times in India was given to people who had trouble learning math because it gives you a kind of inner sense, extra sense. The peace sign made with the Jupiter, Saturn finger, the index, and the ring finger is not just a sign of peace, it's real. One who masters these two fingers shall not only be in peace, but they can create peace on earth. through the nose. It can be relaxed, but deep. Hypnotically focus on fingers, exhale, close. So now we're coordinating the breath with the movement. Powerful breath with the movement. Hold the fingers out as wide as possible. Breathe through the O mouth. Heavy duty for this last 40 seconds. Use the diaphragm. Make an O of the mouth. A heavy breath. As fast and as powerfully as you can. You have 30 seconds. Inhale. Now hold the breath. Keep the fingers spread wide and tight. Squeeze every fiber of the body. Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold the breath. Wide and tight. Squeeze. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. And just kind of roll the neck, roll the shoulders, roll the jaw, and relax. He says, don't immediately operate motor vehicles after doing this meditation. Okay, so that's a 11-minute, and I don't know if you heard that, but that's an interesting little piece of that meditation. He said, those who master the peace sign not only master peace within themselves, but actually can create peace on earth. So these mudras, you know, they are popularized by certain movements, and you see a lot of the mudras being used in hip-hop and in pop culture. There's a reason for that. And if you're interested in that, you can YouTube it. You can go down a whole rabbit hole about the mudras being used for, basically because, you know, they're powerful. So if you're interested. Okay, I'll take some questions. Now that I got y'all buzzed. Let's have some good questions. And then I want to read you one last thing that Yogi Bhajan says about the innovation of leadership in this age. Yes. Well, I mean, of course, there's the people who break the bell curve, and have the certain, there's an alchemy to it, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. There's an alchemy to why that happens for some people and why it doesn't happen for others. And then there's a science for how it can happen for everyone. And I think that's the yes, there are the very few that it's just a natural kind of frequency, or they're able to hit a certain frequency for a variety of reasons that you could, everyone could have an opinion about. There's a charisma, there's a talent, there's a skill set, there's a work ethic. I mean, that's something that goes across all of these. These people have work ethic. The most successful people in the world have a certain work ethic, and that's just, but I don't need to preach to the choir in Boston. I mean, you guys are good on this one, but I have to yell at the Californians about this. But no, the work ethic is definitely, the people at the top have that, and that goes across the board. And then there's certain other things that are happening. But for the rest of us, the part of this science is that everyone has the capacity to have a certain level of their own fulfillment, their own destiny, and some of us have to work a little harder at it and train for it. But the people who hit it, like the Keith Richards or whatever, they also had to work hard as well. There was a certain alchemy and destiny that was part of the situation. But it is a good question, isn't it? It's like, how do they, and I have, a bunch of opinions about that, but I'm an aura watcher, so I like to, be around those types of people and really see what's going on in their energy fields, why what is happening to them. And a lot of times they don't even know. Some of the people who have a certain fame and certain kind of, moving history, changing history, they do know what's happening to them, but it's the very few. Usually they have no idea why it's happening either. You know what I mean? So they're being, kind of used in a certain way. They have a certain type of capacity, and then they're kind of being used in certain ways. Because a lot of people who have those types of, like the Keith Richards, they're kind of open vessels. When you're around them, and you've been around a lot of those types of people in the music and entertainment industry, they're kind of really open vessels, and that's why they get into drugs and alcohol, because they don't know what to do with themselves. So then, we were doing, a friend of ours was doing a photo shoot for a really cool campaign with a bunch of celebrities a couple weeks ago in LA, and she said they had to call it off because all 4 of the celebrities, one of them being young, I don't even know if he's 20 yet, all of them were having nervous breakdowns. Like, she said she got like 4 calls from like the day before. Like, sorry, but she started to get comedic. Because, every single person who was supposed to be on the shoot that day, again, these high kind of success type of fame type of people. So a lot of times they don't know what to do once the thing is starting to move through them in a certain way. And we have a lot of stories of that. People who get fame and success and don't know what to do, and either, basically kill themselves one way or the other, or don't handle it very well. So I think that's another aspect of why this conversation is so important, because we really want people who get a certain level of success and a certain level of fulfillment and whatever, fame or whatever the thing is, and are able to handle it and able to be really good role models and able to, speak to things that are important and really be the kind of role models of this new age that we need so desperately. I mean, we need leadership so desperately. So that's part of the thing. Other questions? Yeah.
Can you speak to cultivating leadership from sort of different?
We want to put it on. Yeah.
Cultivating leadership from different kind of personality types. So, not everybody's a Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Or, some are kind of slow and low and deep and.
Yeah, I love that question. I think that's a great question. where I would go with that question, and I was just reading some things about it, is in the way of self-psychology, which you've heard me talk about. Yogi Bhajan used this term self-psychology, and I love it because I think it's really important. I mean, think about first of all, the money we spend having someone else therapize us in whatever way. If you're not spending it on a therapist anymore, now you're spending it on a shaman, you're spending it on healer, or that kind of thing, which is great. The thing's moving, the needle's moving, but you are your greatest therapist. You are your greatest psychologist, and there are practices of self-psychology that will help you to kind of get honest with yourself, which that is very magnetic. People who are real, and I don't necessarily think that honesty is the just reporting of facts. Our idea of what honesty is kind of interesting in our culture. But first and foremost, if you're honest with yourself about what motivates you, what I always say this about, getting yourself to meditate, you have to know what what's going to get you to do something that you don't want to do. You have to be really clear about that. Does everybody know what it is? It should be like that. What is going to get you to do something that you don't want to do? Nobody wants to meditate. I mean, and then, there'll be days, once you start to meditate, there are days that you like to do it. Like, I took 2 cold showers today. You really start to love the thing, the stuff that maybe you hated before, but there'll be another thing you hate or you don't want to do. So you have to know what is the thing that will get you to do something that you don't want to do. And everybody has something, whether it's their children or themselves or whatever the thing is, you have something that will, or maybe it is your success or your goal or whatever's going to get you to the mat, as we would call it, or get you to do something that you don't want to do. And as an entrepreneur and as a leader, as anybody in startup, any entrepreneur understands that basically you're going to be asked 1 million times a day to do things you're not good at, asked by yourself, because guess who's the boss? You are. So then you have to show up for a bunch of stuff that you're not naturally good at, and then that's entrepreneurialism, that's startup culture, and then anybody who's going to be on your team are going to also be asked to be doing things that they aren't necessarily innately good at and innately what they were hired for. I love this whole thing where I totally refuse to do this with my employees, which is that they want a scope of the work they're going to be asked to do, and it's like, no, I'm not going to give you that. Why would I back myself up into that corner? Who knows? We have a startup culture. I start a new business every single year. I was just talking to Tom about, Tom's my lawyer, and I was like, okay, we're going to start. He's like, oh, whoa. So we don't get to see each other much because he's in Boston. But so we're always in startup culture in my company. So I don't like to get into, and so people have to be interested in doing things they're not good at, and you as a leader and entrepreneur, you have to be, but then that means you have to know what's going to make you do that thing, even if you're not good at it, even if you don't want to do it, even if it's your least favorite thing to do. So I think self-psychology is a huge part of really, and then when you are a leader and you have a team, or you have to really get good. And we did that feminist CEO panel, and one of the panelists is an astrologer, and she was talking about, she uses astrology as the language of self-psychology. I feel in yogic science, like what we just did basically gave you the capacity that if somebody on your team or a coworker or something like that came to, or you were hiring someone or whatever, you should be able to tell in 3 to 9 seconds what's going on with that person, what's going to motivate them, what they're in it for. No human relationship, it happens out of agape anything. Agape love. It's a total new age kind of spiritual farce that everybody's looking to get something. And if you understand that, then if you're motivating yourself or motivating someone else, you can help them to get the thing that they want to get. That's a good relationship. A good relationship is you are aware and willing and ready in every moment to help the person who you're in relationship with get the thing they want to get and have the thing they want to have a bigger experience of. And you offer it to them and give it to them, and then that makes them happy. And guess what? You have a happy relationship. It's that simple. But with your team, you have to know exactly what everybody is, what they're trying to get from the thing, because they're trying to get something, and then you amp it up. And it's going to be different with every person. A good leader knows that, like, you talk to every single person on your team differently. You treat them differently. It's favorites. I mean, you're playing different games with every single person because they're there for different reasons. But the only way you'd have the capacity to do that is what? If you knew it about yourself. That's self-psychology. So then you can really, you become very sophisticated as a leader of a group. I'm talking about like an employee group, but also just anything else. One of the issues, like on a big why Gary Vee is so interesting is this is a little complex, but I'll put it out there just for fun. He is not patronizing his followers or his, people who are interested in his work. So he's not patronizing them, but he also knows what he's selling. And so many people don't know what they're selling, and you're hardly ever selling an actual product. So at that wellness thing last week, there's a lot of people in the product industry, people who have whatever products or product lines and that kind of thing. One of the big issues in that realm of entrepreneurialism is if you think you're selling a product, you're totally wrong. Now, the product does have to be good, and there has to be integrity, and there's all sorts of that happening, but you're actually not selling the product. You're selling a narrative, you're selling an energy, you're selling something else. So if you don't know what you're selling and you don't know what you're giving, basically, ultimately, you don't know what experience you're giving to, your audience or your followers, what they want to have a bigger experience of, why they'd even be interested in what you have to say, then you're going to be basically off message or off-brand, or the frequency of what you're talking about, what you're selling, what you're giving is not, it's not kind of in alignment, and that creates a warble. And that's happening, my God, all the time. If people just did a little, just a tiny bit of self-psychology on their own social media accounts, that would be big. That's the next workshop. Do self-psychology on your social media account, because basically, if you let someone talk for any 45 seconds or more, they're going to start spewing their subconscious patterns, right? That happens on social media all the time. And so people are just interlocking in subconscious kind of patterns with each other. And that's not going to get you to the place of basically the caliber of leadership that is the kind of leadership that we're talking about here. So the social media scene, and you can know everything about everyone by going to their social media, and you can know everything about what's going on with them, But listening is one of the greatest qualities of a leader. Listening to yourself, your own sound current, back to point A. Listening to your own sound current, and then that gives you the capacity to, and we do it when we're chanting or we do it when we're meditating, and then that gives you the capacity to listen to the sound current of somebody you're interviewing or somebody who's interviewing you, and start to understand what's kind of what's going on in their pattern, and you'll know everything about them. You can tell. That's why the Martin Luther King, that last talk, in his sound current, he knew he was going to walk off stage, and whether it was conscious or not, I think it was pretty conscious actually. He knew that he was going to die that night, and it is very obvious. And so I'm using that as an extreme example, but these things are obvious. You can tell so much. So you can tell a lot, in the age of social media, like how much everyone's, talking into the camera. You can tell everything about what they're up to and what they're really doing and what's going on. And so therefore, if you want to turn the camera on yourself, watch your own dailies, everybody. I always see these kind of social media accounts where you're watching the story. I'm like, did they watch themselves? They didn't. And everybody who's a pro, who's a professional in the realm of being on video, which we're all on video now, everybody's videoing everybody, they're watching their dailies. They're watching themselves. Any actor, any newscaster, anybody who actually is pro watches themselves. Well, now everybody has a media channel. So if you really want to be pro, you got to start watching yourself and being very critical. Like, well, no, yeah, she always says, know the words you always say, I smack my lips, all that kind of stuff. You have to know what's going on so that you can get better, basically. That didn't answer your question, but thank you for letting me go off on that diatribe. It's 7:04. I want to be respectful of your time, but I will take another question. Just speak into the microphone.
Hi, I work in graphic design and branding, but I
don't think it's on, but yeah, go ahead. Oh, there you are.
I work in graphic design and branding,
Yeah.
but I think this is kind of relevant to everyone because
Yeah.
everyone has a personal brand.
Yeah.
Do you have like suggestions about going about branding yourself or your company in an authentic way where the vibration is coming out, that it doesn't vibrate nap pods or whatever you were saying before?
Right. It doesn't vibrate nap pods. That's funny. That's a good question. I think it comes down to this is a great answer. I'm already impressed with my answer. You can only impress yourself. This is a really good answer. Okay, ready? No, this is a great answer for everyone, for no matter what you're doing, because it's a great practice, and I do it all the time, and I should be doing it more. Like I need to do it more. That's how important it is, and it's what I kind of just said, but it's in a practical way of looking at it. There's three perspectives you want to hold at all times. And if you're creating something or watching a video that you put up on social media or creating a brand, trying to think about what it looks like, what it feels like, and all that kind of stuff, you need to go through the three perspectives, and hopefully you can do it quicker and quicker. That's what that increase your intelligence is for. You can do it almost, like this. It should be that you can toggle through those three kind of camera angles simultaneously all the time. So it's your perspective. So you're either going to think it's really good or you're going to think it's really bad, depending on your kind of childhood trauma and your parental issues and all that kind of stuff. So you either think it's like, really good. And a great poet who I respect a lot, Jack Spicer, he always said when he taught poetry, I think at Berkeley, he would say, always be willing to take out your best line. So the line that you think is the best in the poem is the first one that should go. And I thought that, that's a hard practice. If any poets in here, you understand. You think it's like, oh my God, that is like so good. It just, and you just like slash it. Because so you're either going to think it's really good or really bad depending on your drama. So that's your perspective. Then you want to look at it from who's watching, somebody looked at your video, their perspective. So that's called second position. It's the most important position in this particular equation. What is it? So that's watching your dailies and watching yourself from their perspective, the consumer's perspective, the clientele's perspective, whatever. So really putting yourself in that kind of perspective, which is hard to do because people have an issue with this thing called narcissism, and so they can't figure out how to get out of their own perspective, and that's what creates a lot of the issues we have on this planet. So that's second perspective, and then there's the third, which is you're looking at the whole situation. You're like, okay, see this person, you see who's you see the other, whatever clientele or whoever your market share is. You see those people, and then you kind of start to see the whole picture a little bit more holistically. But there's that great commercial that you were showing me where they're doing like the millennial car ad. What is that? That guy, where they're doing like testing for a millennial car ad. Weren't we watching that? Oh, he is. Okay, but what is it? Is it on The Onion? Is that what it was? Oh, it's his own channel. Do you remember the guy's name? Okay, but he's doing sketch comedy on basically they're doing market research on this car commercial that's focused for millennials, and they're like, people in hats and like beards and piercings and tattoos, and it's a whole like joke about, well, but isn't it like you're trying to live your best life and like you're high-fiving each other? Like, don't you want to do like a spontaneous dance like in front of and they're like, no, so like, but they had this whole idea. It's a good farce on this, this whole idea of what a millennial would want, and kind of that whole thing. But that's a good way to start to look at what is it, and because the audience is getting much more sophisticated, as I said last week to those CEOs, you don't even understand what's going to happen when Gen Z takes the wheel of the economic thrust. It's going to be completely, the whole thing is going to be thrown on its head, because what the value is just a whole different scene, a different language, everything. So it's going to be really interesting in your industry. It's going to be very, very interesting. But try that, really put yourself, and I know that that's like something that is done as an industry standard, but if you really put yourself in the perspective, you'll start to get nuances of things that aren't integral or not resonant in a way that's deeper. Does that make sense? It's a great practice. I mean, do it in your relationships, do it everywhere, but it's a really good practice. Okay, so I will, thank you so much. I want to read you something that Yogi Bhajan says about leadership that I thought was pretty good to end our time together. Let's see if I can. This is from our thing called Aquarian Business Academy. This is some of the teachings that we're putting out there. And I had it on the thing, but I lost it. But this is his kind of definition of leadership. He says, everybody wants to be a leader, but a true leader is someone whose word has a certain resonance, whose sound has a certain resonance. I think I'm going to have to paraphrase it because I lost it here. But it's basically everything we've been talking about, which is that this kind of the actual vibration of leadership is something that's connected to the power of your word, or the vibration of your word. And that's really what's going to make you be in a different kind of class than everyone else. And that's a branding. That's totally what a brand is the power of the word, but in a visual or in a narrative. So it can be used in all sorts of different aspects. It's not just a verbal word, because a lot of what we're doing is communicating non-verbally. Almost all the time we're communicating non-verbally. So thank you very much for your practice and your attention, which is a great commodity. And we'll be here tomorrow. We'll be somewhere tomorrow at 6. Is that the time? Yes. You want to? Yeah, you can announce it.
Yeah, we're going to have the Business of Spirituality, a panel at Harvard Divinity School from 6 to 7:30. You should all come. And that's in Andover Hall. And be sure to check out the Aquarian Business Academy at ramatv.com. Let's give Guru Jagat a round of sound for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.